Well, good evening everybody, welcome back to Fat Man Paints. A bit late on a Saturday evening. I may have been out at our local Real Ale Festival in our village, so I may have had a few beers already. As you can see, I'm ready to go again with another one, so let's get that cracked on. All awesome stuff. So, what we're up to tonight is we have this Mawloc here that we need to continue working on. We've put a really even, dark, matte black cover over all the carapace, all that chitin it's around on the armour. So that's all done. I actually did this one with contrast paint, Black Templar Games Workshop. It took 3-4 coats in the end to get a good even cover on that one, but it's thin, it's smooth, you know, it's not blocky paint on there, so it was worth the effort to do that as a thin one. What I'm now going to do is kind of build up a bit of colour, a bit of depth into that black. I'm going to first of all do a coat of Carroburg Crimson shade. That's going to go all over that black again. It'd be very difficult to tell what that's done to it. And then I'm going to follow up with 2 layers of Flesh Terror's red contrast. And at the end of that, what we'll have is very kind of deep red black, kind of almost leathery kind of looking colour. So a very rich overall colour for the model. So we'll do this, and then on top of that we'll end up doing some feathering around the edges to really give the spark into that carapace kind of work. So let's get started. Let's see how we do. Let me just get things going over here. Have a sip of beer. Right. So for most of the first layer, like I said, we're doing Carroburg Crimson with a really good shake. Run it through the vortex mixer. All that wonderful vibration stuff coming through. Really good mix of that. See, it's hard to tell, but there's no pigment left on the bottom of the tub there. It's all properly mixed in, so I'll use that one. I'm using a largest brush. I've got a cheap number 3 size. Like I said, I bought these as a pack. They were probably about 50p a brush. They've lasted surprisingly well. It'll take a lot of paint on the brush, and because we've got some large flat areas, it's really good to work on. So let's zoom in a bit. Let's see. Okay. Let's see if we can keep this somewhat in focus as I'm pacing through. If not, I might zoom out again. And away we go. Try and be a bit methodical with where we go, area by area. Work through. So I'm going to put this on relatively thickly. It is just a shade. It is a very thin paint, so it's not going to start obscuring any details of the model. Generally as well, you won't quite a subtle layer that we're putting on, so it's not something you can obviously instantly just see, oh yeah, we've got a layer of red on here. It does just help bring up the richness for the layers. It's just another layer of colour, another bit of richness. It just helps on the overall finish of the piece. As we said before, my painting style is very forgiving, or my painting process, at least for these guys. I'm just going to scroll out a bit. There we go. It's very forgiving. Anything that I get wrong, any overpaint, we generally just tidy up in the next layer, the next section. So I'm not saying be crazy nuts. If we happen to overspray a little bit, it's fine. We'll just fix it in the next stage, because this is a big model in large spaces. A large brush just helps us cover it all up as we go through. If I manage to get this done, I do have some practice pieces that I need to work on. We've got a couple of basing options that I need to look into. And to be honest, with the Leviathan set, there's a lot of tactical concrete and tactical rocks. And for the various bases I'm doing, I just want to run through some experiments. See if I've got a good colour combination that we can put into them, just so that we've got, you know, a good way to paint them when I come to that set. Because sooner or later, I need to be painting all those wonderful new sculpts. So I've got three, possibly just see them in the background there. I've got three test bases that I've got there, some cheap 25mm round bases that I picked up off eBay, and I've stuck some stones, some concrete on there that I've made from some sprue offcuts. What I want to do is go through, paint the concrete, paint the stones. I want to try and get that kind of really nice granite effect that you see on the heavy metal style bases that Games Workshop publish. But I also want to kind of figure out a way to get a nice red consistent with kind of the Martian base for the technical paints that we've got Games Workshop as well. So I've got some ideas I want to go through from those, so we'll see how they go later on. But first of all, I'm just going to focus very much on getting this layer of, of shade across the model. Do the chimney stacks in a minute. We've got this carapace area all wrapped up. I think there we go. Chimney stack bits painted up as well. We'll do the sides. There's one on this side. Sides through here. And the last bit. Get the fronts all done. Get the other side done. And then finally the back. And once that's done, we'll just do the inside. Just so our colour is consistent throughout. There we go. That's that. Pretty loaded brush for these ones. There we go. Just get the tops. Again, consistency through here. I think it's a look wrong. There we go, first two major sections done. Let's give the brush a clean. Good. With a shake, make sure all our pigments are all mixed together. Spin in the vortex mixer. Right, that's bits done. Maybe difficult to tell on this really shitty camera, but you can already see there's a very deep layer of very, very dark red just through this at the moment. Zoom out a bit so you can see a bit better. So across here, it's no longer just a really rubbish black. There's some, you can just see a little bit of variation in there. Like I said, the shitty camera doesn't pick that up, but hey, not to worry. Just check my messages. Oh, it's offer for Uber Eats. Right, where are we? Beer time. Right, so now we're going to work our way through the tail section. We'll do one side, then we'll work on the other side. And now normally I would paint a model. So in this one, I would generally paint it. I would paint it in one go apart from the head, just so I can get in behind there. But as this was built a while ago, and painting considerations were top of the agenda, we have what we have. It's a fully built model, so we have to work with it as it is. It's not a problem. You know, the philosophy we have is if you can see it, you can paint it. If you can't see it, it doesn't matter. Now, it does make it a little more tricky when you do have to do a bit of painting. You've got to somehow get your little paintbrush through those marks, those little gaps. But we'll get there. And I said, this painting process that I use for my Tyranids is very, very forgiving. So even though in this gap there, when I put in the shade that I'm going to put in there, it won't make too much of a difference for the carapace that we've done. Well, that chitin will survive most of it, and then when we do some of the other layers, we might need to do a little bit more dry brush just to catch some of the edges, but it's not a hard challenge to get those done. But if I was to make this model again, if I was to build it and paint it again, I would probably leave the head off. Everything else would be the same. It all looks pretty straightforward to get to, but I would paint the head separately and then glue it on with a dollop of quality super glue. after. That way I can get all the head painted properly, get all of that inside area behind that head all painted soon. Like I said, we weren't thinking about that when we built this one, so we've got what we've got. We work with what we have. Let's just keep going and going and going. Unexpected. Splash in the mouth. That's it. Very forgiving. We'll paint it over that when we come to do the mouth areas later on. I'll try and be a little more accurate. But you know, all that booze isn't helping the process. Let's see how we do. And because we managed to get black in all of the areas we did before, this really, if we miss a slight little bit, if it's an area we didn't get, we still have that black base before, so it's always important, again, for my style, my process, we have that first layer, that solid black, complete covering first layer. Everything else builds upon that. Sorry for the carapace area, so it's very important that we get that right. Get that covered. And as I said, it took probably in the end about 4 layers to make sure everything was done, everything was covered over. Right. So the other side of the tail section. Those dorsal fin things that come done. Oh, so my virtual music playlist for the evening is Frank Turner again. I only discovered him recently, but he ticks all my boxes for music. So it's, you know, folk punk is how he described himself. So it's the get up and do it attitude of punk. Punk songs of kind of getting on with it, life and shit, coupled with it, you know, interesting kind of folk sound, deep, kind of very deep, rich lyrical content on that as well. Very sing along too. So that is tonight's playlist. Just whatever Frank Turner you've got, that's what it is. I am seriously thinking about getting on and trying to sort out some proper Spotify playlists I set up before our sessions, so you actually know what I'm talking about. You can listen in on your own without me having to not broadcast it because we're not allowed. Right, slow progress. I almost found the inside of these when I painted the trigon before. It was so much more difficult than the outside of it. Hey. It is. If you can see, you can paint it. when I've done these larger areas, I'll switch again to a smaller brush, large bristle size, a smaller overall shape, to just be able to get some of these other areas and be a bit more focused, a bit more accurate where bristles go in. So I've just got a few more bits on here. Come back and do the top of the dorsal bits in a moment or two. Just got the end of the tail. Right, there we go. Just close that for a moment as I clean my brush. Oh, fuck. Excuse my French. Pots are awesome. Honestly. No, it's quite clean. Good for the moment. I'm going to use a slightly smaller brush. Number, what's this one? This is a Dale Rowley size 0. It's still quite a fair size brush, and we're doing this for some of the more tricky parts. So we're going to use this brush for the chest plates, for the jaw elements. Hair got lodged, didn't it? There we go. Okay. So we're going to use that, let's say, the smaller brush for the chest pieces, the mandible, the claw areas, and our base decoration. So just before we do that, time to recharge. So drunken painting continue. One sec. There we go. Sorry about the delay. I've got a slow cooking a gammon this evening. I'm going to be doing a nice peanut ham soup tomorrow. I've got a kilo and a half of gammon cooking through, and that'll make me up something like 6-7 litres of soup. Should keep me going for a couple of weeks. If anyone's remotely interested, I can post a recipe for it, but I suspect this is a Warhammer figure painting channel. It ain't a cooking channel. But hey, right. On to the next layer. I said we're going to go through the chest pieces, the mandibles, claws, and we'll be done with this one, and then we move on to the next thin red we're going to put on, which is the flesh terazite contrast. You may actually be able to see a bit of a change in the colours of the model. We'll have to make sure it's all dry before we put it on. So what we're just trying to do is build up layers. So my painting process is, what's the way to describe it for me? It's an easy process. It's like painted by numbers, except there's no numbers. Instead of numbers, you've got shapes, and you're really relying on the quality of the sculpt to guide where you paint your areas. And to be honest with Games Workshop stuff, certainly the more recent stuff, it's quite easy to see where you've got your delineation between kind of areas, your bits of the bodies, your bits of your stuff. So, like I said, it's a bit like painting by numbers, but in 3D. My models are never going to win any Golden Demon kind of awards, but what I'm hoping is certainly my process and what they look like so far. We're looking for kind of good battlefield level models, not just battlefield ready, way above that. You know, it's not just 3 colours, a bit of a base and we're done. You know, I want to have something that, you know, looks great. That's what we're going through here. So when we're kind of building up this layered approach on the chitin, trying to get these deep colours going through, the deep red first of all on the carapace, on the chitin. It just helps give a richness to the overall finish of the model. It's just help it look good. Well, in my opinion anyway. I'm a lad, he's the one who plays the game, so. And if nobody else minds, I don't care either. That's kind of why I'm streaming at the moment. I'm going to be painting anyway. I might as well talk to myself too. Because why not? Right, so the mandible bit's done. As I said, you probably can't tell with the camera, but I can definitely see kind of that red coming through. It's very, very slightly, very, very darkly. All of this chitin. floors don't need this, so I don't need to go all the way to the end for these ones. Nearly done on this one. This is a very thin paint, this Carroburg Crimson shade, so it is quite forgiving. When we do the next layer, Flash Terror's red contrast needs to be a little more accurate with what we're doing. Because we build up 2 layers, it does take a little bit longer to do with the accuracy and the layer count for it. Because painting the same area again and again. And if you think about it, this is layer number 5 on the model. Colour number 2. Right, just the last 2 to go, and then we're done with this. Brush clean. Move on to the next paint. Last one. I've tried streaming a few times over the past few days, but this works on a local exchange and it's really caused some problem and a really shitty internet connection for the past few weeks, or past few days should I say. Up and down, like the proverbial. It seems to be pretty stable this weekend. I suspect all the work's done. There we go. Nobody wants to work a Friday night, do they now? Right. That was Carroburg Crimson shade. That's gone through. That's put all over that that black base that we put on there. And as I said, maybe difficult to tell from my rubbish camera, but here you definitely see this. It's taken a lift up in red on that base of matte black that we had on there. Looks a bit alright. I've got another set of contrast paint. Flash Terror's red this time. I think I've got a little bit of paint left in this one. I could have got some more on. Yeah, do have a spare if I need it. Good shake. And good buzz in the vortex mixer. Rinse and repeat. Oh, come on, you. These pots are shit. Anyway, so we're going to repeat again. A layer through Flesh Toes Red contrast. We're going to go over the head, going to go on the carapace, do the tail back here, switch to a smaller brush, do the front panels, we'll do the mandibles, and we'll do the claw covers. And for this one it's 2 layers, so it's going to take a little while to go through all of this. We'll see how we do. Right. Oops. Stiff. There we go. Let's try again. And because it's contrast, the first few layers of this do feel a bit thick, but as we pull it down it will darken. Again, I don't know how easy it is to see, but certainly from here you can already see there's quite a difference. We've got a really deep, rich red forming on there. Because it's contrast, and at this level we want to kind of keep the brush strokes pretty consistent. Pulling them all, just pulling them down through the layers. We don't want to go sideways, I want to just keep it pulling down. So I've got a little bit on these antenna pieces, but not a problem, because all we'll do is at the next stage, when we finish the carapace, we will just be blocking those out with white, and then they'll be ready for stage after that. So, you know, well, I want to be careful. I don't want to paint them. If I get a bit of overspill, it is not an issue at all. Certainly not in these stages. Right. This first bit's done. Move on to the next bits. A little more tricky, as we've got these antenna bits on the side that are in the way of my paintbrush. Even though I've just decided I want to keep the brush strokes consistent, if I want to paint around it, at least I can then drag them down in the right way after. We will be doing 2 layers of this, so if I do miss Not a little bit, we will catch it on the next layer. And to be honest, because what we're doing with this, if there's a little bit of inconsistency, if it isn't quite right across all of them, it doesn't matter, it just adds a little bit of uniqueness and interest on this. It doesn't all have to be absolutely uniform. But yeah, I'm not sure if you can tell, but was it really starting to lean into an awesome colour on this large part of the model. Because with Tyranids, I always think that it's either the wings or the carapace is always the focus. You don't have many models with wings, so get the carapace right, get the chitin right, get the wings right, it's all good. Skin's pretty straightforward. This is what we'll find in the next few stages. Touch up the white, touch up any overpaint. Do a quick wash of, I can't quite remember what it is at the moment, I'll have to check my notes. There we go, awesome. Right. Hopefully, certainly here we can see the difference between the hair and the mandible, between the claws and the back. What we're going to do now, I'm going to do the smokestacks at the back, then we're going to move down around the tail area. So let's get these smokestacks done. Pull the brush vertically, or this way along from them, so as whereas the carapace we were pulling down, now pull out. And the reason that I do that is if there is any marks from the brushes, they all are kind of consistent. So when it comes to the next layer is the dry brush and the feathering, you know, we're always working on the same base, same. Oops. That would be too big a brush, too much beer. To the other side, and do front and back. This brush may need, whoops, a bit of a good clean actually in a minute. So what I'm going to do is finish the smokestacks. I'll give it a good clean with some brush soap. Apply any of the pigments that are just lurking at the end of the brush. I'll do the backs. And then we'll do the insides. Top's done. Just get the insides done as well. Well, I'll be feathering the rest of the carapace. I won't be doing anything more on the insides now. This is it. And the colour we want them to be. Good check. We can't see any grey, we can't see any white. There we go. Right. Loads of paint at this. Oh! You paint pots are rubbish. Right. I'm going to give the paintbrush a good clean. Fresh water for the soap paint. Dry pigment out of the brush. It's good again. Let's go again with the white pigment. In terms of this click, it doesn't have to be perfect. We will be cleaning the brush properly later on. Right, there we go. That'll do for that. So wait. Alright, so now there we go. I think I might have missed the panel there. I missed this panel, so I'm going to do that, and then we'll go work on our back. As you can tell the difference in the shades, it's kind of quite obvious I've missed a bit there. Right, back to the large areas now. Piece by piece. Piece in. Work it down. Rinse and repeat. At least it's not as, well, no, it is as repetitive as watching me build those termagants. The same thing again and again and again. Hey. So yeah, this one will have a finished model. It's rinse and repeat stuff. Whereas when it comes to some of the smaller troops, it's the same process for the carapace. So when I've got these 10 termagants sitting over, 10 gene sealers over here, I'm going to do their chitin armour as well. It's the same thing. So even though this is a big fella, I've still got the same process to go through for the little buggers as well. Okay. So wherever possible, I try and avoid touching the model itself, because fingers get greasy, skin gets greasy. So whenever I start a session, I just give my hands a good clean. Use washing up liquid dish soap for our North American fellows. It really just takes the grease off the fingers, because you know, if you cook, grease just stops things sticking, and it's exactly the same paint as well. If you've got a greasy mark on the base, it won't stick. Right. One half done. Next half to go. Just give the brush a bit of a rinse. once we get this first layer the flesh tower is red on, I'm going to call it an eye. We can finish this up in a couple of days' time. Ooh, which was a bit wayward, never mind. Possibly another reason why it's time to call it quits and go to bed. At least with the brushing. Getting there. I've just realised missed a layer on that one. It's only a small bit, so I think we can get away with it. Right, where did we get to here? When I say I missed a layer, I missed the Carroburg Crimson on there, but I generally don't do that on the smaller models, so it's not going to be too much of a problem for us tonight. Right, that's the back carapace done. Chin on the tail. Right, let's pop you to the side for the moment. And the smaller brush. I'll go for front armour. Go through. The front armour done. Get the mandible bit done. Then we will get those claws done. We'll not forget the base detail. As I said, I'm done for the night. I'm going to go listen to some noisy 3-piece band music, 2 guitars, drums and vocals. Hark back to my poppy youth. So I know this is a very slow process for building up. The chitin paint. As I said, it's such a focal point of all Tyranids, is the armour. I think it's really important to spend the time to get it right. Cool. What am I missing today? Right, there we go. Mandible 1. As I was doing when I was doing the main bits of the carapace, I'm trying to keep the brush strokes for this as much as I can consistent, pulling in one line so that any texture from the paintbrushes is consistent. So this paint does really clog up the brush. Right. So whatever white I pick's could have its work cut out in the next stages. A bit of overpaint going on. Oops. to get this bit done before I forget about it again. Sausage fingers are working there. Right, we just have the 6 claws to do, and then that will be it for me for this evening. Enough's enough. I'm drunk. It's late. It's 11:30. I have pea and ham soup to prepare. There we go. Right, let's rattle on with these then. Right, we're going to start. Let's start on this side. One down. Two. Three. And the last side now. One. Two's nearly done. point. Calling it quits for the night. What I am also going to do is try and save the colours, because there's so much paint ends up in here. That looks like gore. Careful with it. Oh god. I'm going to call that quits. We're going to take success on that clean up. Mostly closes. Right. Let me do a bit of clean up. Looks like sliced open a vein or something. Yeah, flesh tear is red, as it says on the tin. Right, you don't want to watch me clean up a paintbrush, so thank you very much. If you join me, you missed nothing if you didn't. Take care, be good, don't be a dickhead. See you next time.